in the papers. One of the big stories, of course, is this proposal to start electronically tagging people who have entered the country on small boats. This is as the government are now spending £6 million a day housing 51,000 people in hotel rooms, and the backlog is 175,000. The usual clamour of people saying, well, this is terrible, this is going to deny them their liberty. In fact, officials have been warned that electronic tags could attract human rights challenges on the ground, that it would be depriving migrants of their liberty. But then other people will say, well, look, if someone's come into the country illegally, they can't be put up in a hotel room. There's no way of checking where they are and what they're doing. They might fall through the cracks and disappear into the system. This is the only way we can handle it. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I think it's very confusing because it's yet another of those Home Office, let's run a flag up, let's try and grandstand, let's catch some headlines on a bank holiday. But it's not going to happen. My prediction is that not a single asylum seeker will be tagged. I mean, what we've seen already is, let's remember that all those initiatives, I mean, it was only a few weeks ago that we were discussing the Ascension Islands, the tents, never mind the ones that have progressed a bit but aren't happening, like the barge and Rwanda, where still not a single asylum seeker in Rwanda, still not a single asylum seeker on the barge. I'm confused what they're saying. Are they saying that people are going to be allowed to work but they're going to be tagged, or they're just going to be able to wander around? They're not going to be in hotels or reception centres or the barge. They're just going to be in the community but not able to work, which I think would trouble local communities even more. So it sort of sounds good, it sounds like a get tough measure on the surface, but when you dig down into it, it seems there's detail. And who's going to enforce it? Because as we know at the moment, the Home Office can't enforce people overstaying visas as it is. So where's this new army of people? Not the police, who we know at the moment can't respond to every crime. I'm sure the police will be saying that they haven't got the resources to start chasing people around the country. So where's this army of people to enforce it going to be? So I think there's nothing in it really. It's just another headline. It's another smoke screen.
Headline. I mean, it's interesting as well that the independent chief inspector of Borders and Immigration last year said, well, there's probably not going to be enough tags anyway, because the government have this agenda of increasing the number of tags on offenders.
So they haven't got enough tags for offenders, never mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So again, I mean, they need to stop this because it's really destroying any confidence in the system that anybody has. I mean, Rishi Sunak said he was going to sort the small boats crisis before the election, and then 10 days ago he admitted, oh, it's a complex problem, I'm not going to manage to do it. And it's that sort of thing which destroys people's confidence in politics, because he actually said it's a complicated problem. No surprise that. I could use a less polite expression. We could have all told him that, and it just, politicians should not promise what they have no intention and no ability to deliver.
I mean, interestingly, people listening to the programme have messaged in, one person saying they should have been tagging migrants ages ago. That's Joe and Brian in Scarborough. Certainly plenty of people do come in and end up working in the black market, might be affiliated with criminal organisations, as well as those who are, economic refugees, migrants, whatever. Kenny in Edinburgh makes an interesting point here. He says, hi, Alex, we don't need to electronically tag migrants. We can track them via the phones they've all got. I mean, actually, a lot of this happened in COVID, didn't it?
Absolutely,
so
but also we saw this week, everybody's arriving with a smartphone, and we saw the sort of TikTok videos
filming it,
that people have been releasing this week, that migrants have been releasing this week. So I think if they can have a TikTok video, they can have an app that people use to track children and young people. It's very easy. So yes, that's a potential suggestion. Yeah. But how is it going to be enforced? Because sometimes people think that these reception centres or the hotels that are being used are effectively like quasi-prisons. They're not. People are allowed to leave. They're meant to come back. They're meant to report. But the system is just a mess. And the real solution is to get the backlog sorted and send people who shouldn't be here home.
In terms of the detention centre, I read earlier that I think the capacity of the UK immigration detention centres are 25,000. So,
well, they've got a new one that's been promised in Hampshire. That is now only going to have 290 people, and it's not going to open until next July. Oh, so it's one thing to have a smoke screen. It's another thing when you dig down into the reality, which is failure.
On the same topic, I mean, Biddy Stockholm.
Oh,
the Bibby. Oh, the Bibby. I mean, it's one thing after another, and now you've got the FBU, the Fire Brigades Union, who've sent a pre-action protocol letter,
which
whatever
sounds
that
very
happens
formal,
to be. It sounds very formal. Basically saying, it doesn't meet fire standards and regulations, and no one should be put on it. Not that anyone's on it anyway. First it was Legionnaires, then it was people saying, well, they can't be put on it because they're scared of water. Now the things are,
they weren't that scared of water coming across the channel, one might hazard.
What I don't understand is this used to house people in the middle of the North Sea who worked on oil rigs, and no one had placards saying, the inhumanity of these poor people drilling for oil, living on the Biddy Stockholm. But apparently
they were going to put students on it in Ireland.
Really?
Yes.
Party barge.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, it's just one thing after another. I get the impression that for some reason there are people out there who desperately would do anything, any sort of legal manoeuvre when it comes to any situation with migrants. And I don't understand what motivates them. Why? Why is this? I've never heard anyone complain about whether there are scabies in homeless centres, or people living on the streets not having their human rights protected, or people with complex mental health issues or drug addictions who were born here not having access to dentists and doctors. Yet if you come from another country, please skip the queue.
That's what is, to me, most extraordinary thing. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Alex. I mean, I drove past people queuing to get into a homeless shelter last night, and it just reminds you of the scale of the problem. And yet, as you say, when perfectly reasonable accommodation is being offered, my objection and the Labour Party's objection to the barge isn't so much a human rights one. It's a cost one and an efficiency one.
It's not even cheap.
It's not, because it's not cheap, and it's a sign of a failed system. I mean, look, Matt Rack, who's the General Secretary of the Fire Brigades Union, is a far left figure.
Oh, I knew he would be.
I'm sure he was a big Corbyn supporter, so I'm sure there's a bit of politics in here.
Yeah.
But the Home Office, they need to get all your ducks in a row before you do anything like this. First of all, the politics. They should have sorted out the fire safety certificate. They should have, and now they're just scrabbling around. They should be able to push back if they should have all their answers prepared, rather than being allowing Matt Rack or whatever to push forward. I mean, Labour said if there's anybody on the barge when Labour comes to power, we hope it's when, that they would remain there until the system sort itself through. People aren't going to be let out on the first, as it were, on the first day of a Labour government. But we need a massively more efficient system, which is cheaper to taxpayers.
It is. Do you know what? I think that barge should be on the Thames, and it should be instead of MP's second homes. That would sort things out. Then the bivvy would be used.
I was talking to the former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng the other day. He was so worried that under Labour that sort of thing was going to happen. So.
Excellent. I'm for it. Matthew, stay where you are. We're going to take a short break now. So much more news to discuss after this very short break.